Hey guys, I just wanted to do one composite review that I'm going to be covering Supergirl, The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow. There was no Arrow this week that's going to be airing next Wednesday, so I just figured that it would just be easier since all the DC shows for this week aired over the last couple of days that I'll just do like one complete review of all three shows in one video. I'll leave timestamps in the description box below, and you can click on it, jump around to watch them, to either skip around or just jump around to watch them in any order you would like to. And so let's get started with Supergirl. Season 2, Episode 15 of Supergirl, Exodus, continues from where Homecoming left off last week, with now that the Katniss has the National Alien Registry, they're kidnapping aliens from all over the country, or at least from all over National City, including this family that you think was, they think there's like an average family that's going on a road trip with their daughter, but it turns out they're all alien immigrants, and they also, and basically there's this cop that goes around saying, hey, pulling people over saying, hey, you have a broken taillight, I just want to put some tape on it just for your convenience, and then it turns out that he's actually a Katniss agent, and that's when they gang up on them. But they also end up just blowing, kind of just like causing an explosion at the alien bar and kidnapping everybody there, including Wynn's new girlfriend Lyra, in spite of his, Maggie's, Alex, and the Guardians' best efforts to prevent the kidnappings. And the DEO has already considered Jeremiah Denver's an enemy combatant and that he has to be taken into custody. But you can tell like Alex is still like reeling from the events of last week's episode, to the fact that like one of the Katniss agents they took into custody during the raid at the alien bar, she ends up just going like full on Jack Bauer and just beating the ever loving crap out of him, and John has to just put her pull her aside and ask if she's gonna be able to handle this mission. Alex assures him yes, and then Alex gets a visit from her father saying that he was coerced into helping Katniss, and she needs him to go and retrieve some kind of electromagnetic device to help unlock the cages for the captive aliens, but they can't let the DEO know because he knows they're going to treat him as an enemy combatant, and Alex reluctantly agreed, but then you found out that it's Martian Manhunter in disguise who was testing Alex to see if she was really could really keep her emotions in check, given that her father's with Katniss, and it just proved to him that she wasn't really ready for it, and so that's why she suspends him and just basically, even though. And the deception was kind of cruel, but at the same time, it's like, it made sense for him to do that, and I kind of like the twist from that, because, she's not thinking straight, and he can't really, as head of, considering he's running this whole operation, he can't really take any chances, and even to the point where even Kara, in spite of not agreeing with what John did, still agrees with his judgment that she can't, emotionally distance herself from this whole thing. So it ends up Maggie ends up being the only one in her corner, convincing her to go rogue and go after her father. And so they somehow know one of the aliens that are about to be kidnapped, so she's able to get the GPS from one of the Katniss's vans. And there's this funny moment where it's like Alex kisses Maggie before she runs off to the location of the Katniss base, where the aliens is looking at them kind of like being a pervert and saying, you know what, I wish I had what you guys had, and they just like yell at him to scram. And it turns out that when Alex gets there, first it's like Kara is trying to convince Snapper Carr to publish a story about the kidnappings, but he insists that she needs like two sources, and so first she tries to talk to Snapper Carr in his alien dressed as Supergirl, but she can't tell him that that she got the source from that the Katniss has a National Alien Registry without disclosing the existence of the DEO, and so the plan fails. And so, with some convincing from um, Lena to get the idea to put it in a blog, and some urging and convincing from Monel to get Kara to be introspective and ask if she wants to do the right thing, they convince her to use the blog. But it leads, and even though she gets the word out, it does lead to Snapper Carr reluctantly firing her, even saying that she was rooting for Kara. And of course, apparently Lena is able to find the location of the base on her own, because she knows like there was a billing for a warehouse that's kind of off the that she was unaware of, and the secretary says like there must be some kind of glitch, but then that kind of clues me into the fact that she's got to be in league with Lillian to be saying that, and it turns out she is, and the secretary has them two goons try to not kill her, but just sort of just like at least like kidnap her and take Lena out of the equation. But it leads to a whole struggle where they accidentally push her off the balcony, and luckily Super there shows up to save her, and that's how she finds out about the base. Alex is already there, has been taken captive by Katniss, and it turns out that Jeremiah helped them build, I guess, an ark of sorts, or at least like they got hands on a spaceship, which is supposed to take them to another planet, I think. It's basically a prison planet called Takron Galtos, which is from the comic books. And once it reaches, and once it gets high enough and far enough into the stratosphere, then it'll go into light speed and deploy all the aliens. So that was the deal that Jeremiah made with Katniss, and that he would help Katniss with their plans, while at the same time softening their attacks on not killing, but at least like rounding up all the aliens in exchange for his daughter's safety, which you think kind of has some parallels to the Galen Erso, Jyn Erso dynamic in Rogue One, but although the only difference is at least Galen gave the rebels a way to stop the evil. Destroy the Death Star, while Jeremiah just decided he had to compromise his ideals for his own daughters and underestimated their ability to take care of themselves. But Alex has a detonator, which she starts blowing up the place because she rigged the whole thing with explosives, obviously, and was able to convince Jeremiah to turn on Katniss and help her and try to deactivate the ship, but they can't do it remotely. So she tries to go on board, but the ship already starts taking off, and Hank Henshaw ends up battling Jeremiah with, you don't see like the end of the fight or what happens to both of them before the episode ends, but as the ship's taking off, Kara, with some encouragement from Alex, is able to use all the super strength she can muster in order to force the ship to land and have their engines start blowing up and give out in order to prevent them being going to the other side of the universe, which I was surprised that she couldn't just use her heat vision and just blow up some of the engines and just land the ship in what is it, like the plane in the pilot episode. But anyway, everybody's freed. John apologizes for his actions, assuring that they'll get Jeremiah back, and Monel encourages Kara that she'll find something else to do. While the episode ends with that alien ship with the two people who are tracking Monel since the mid-season finale are revealed to be Terry Hatcher and Kevin Sorbo, the king and queen of presumably the king and queen of Daxam, because they refer to Monel in the preview for next week's Starcrossed as the Prince of Daxam, and those are presumably his parents coming to look for their son. So I'm just looking to see, the impact it's going to have on Kara and their relationship, and just what kind of shady stuff was going on Daxam, I mean, besides the slavery, which I think was hinted at, that's going to cause a rift in their relationship. In season 3, episode 15 of The Flash, The Wrath of Savitar, Jesse, Wally, and Barry are having a race around the city in order to train Wally and test his speed. And when they finally get to a checkpoint, they determine that Wally has reached his top speed, or reached his speed fast enough that he'll be able to save Iris from being stabbed by Savitar. It's not, but... And then Barry and Iris disclose to the rest of the team that they're engaged, and Joe doesn't really look happy about this, but then also he starts crying tears of joy when he does say he's happy about it, but he just seems kind of annoyed that apparently Barry never asked for his permission. But he just said, he wanted it to be a surprise, and it kind of made me wonder how he got the ring in the first place. If he said Joe was holding on to it, and because he said in last week that it belonged to, I think, either Barry's mom or Barry's grandma, and that Joe's holding on to it since he took him under his roof, and I guess maybe he got it when he moved out and was just planning this the whole time. But then you find out that when Barry and Wally are going to go stop a building fire, Wally gets attacked by Savitar, and he finally tells the group that he's been having visions of him for the last week, in which Barry gets mad at him for not disclosing that, and essentially says to bench him, while Caitlin goes to check Wally check his brain scans to see if Savitar is using Wally as his eyes and ears and spying on them, and Julian doesn't want to, but Barry insists they try to communicate with Savitar again through him, but he doesn't want to be possessed by him again. And Caitlin goes to talk to Julian, saying that she won't think any less of him for becoming possessed by Savitar again, so he gives him a kiss just to make sure that she won't change her mind the next time. And which she's pretty happy about. And apparently still have some of his spatial frequency somehow as Savitar, so they're able to communicate with him through Julian without the stone, and he taunts HR for being a coward and being one of the people who survive his wrath, and Cisco for just being tech support instead of becoming a god like Reverb tried to tell him to be, and saying how it's like, oh Barry, you thought Thawne and Zoom were your biggest enemies. It's like, it's always been me. And he talks about how he was trapped in the Speed Force by a future Barry, and his will was the only thing that was able to make him at least somewhat tangible, or at least be able to appear on Earth 1, at least for somewhat, kind of, even though he's not fully tangible. But they also but he blames the whole team for his fate, and that he thinks Barry's the villain, and that he's gonna pay, and that he's gonna fail his loved ones. And then it just seems like they also find out that the cult still has the box containing Savitar's that contain the Philosopher's Stone, except it's empty, and it's still and I guess it's still the same one that they thought they threw into the Speed Force. And then Caitlin ends up revealing to both Julian and then the rest of the team that she actually kept a piece of the stone before it was thrown into the Speed Force, hoping that it could be used as a means to strip her of her powers. Which Julian's disgusted by, and just feels like, did Caitlin bring her onto the team because she had generally cared for him, or was it just to use him to fix her problems? So they go to communicate with Savitar again, or to get his location in Central City, but his readings his energy signature, I guess, just shows up all over the entirety of the Central City map, created by Cisco. And then there's more drama within the team, because after Wally convinces Cisco to vibe him into the future to the day that Iris was stabbed, he runs over to Barry and Wally they can't. She can't see them, but they both see that she doesn't have the wedding ring on her finger. And then he goes and confronts Barry about it, being pissed about the fact that the only reason why he proposed to Iris was more out of the fact that out of his way of trying to change the future, and less because, and he does love her, but that was like more of his primary drive to propose in the first place, which Iris wasn't really happy about. That she wanted to be proposed to be out of pure love, not just because Barry just sees her as some damsel in distress. And so that's why she doesn't have the ring by the end of the episode. But then, Wally's further taunted by Savitar, especially when he appears as Francine West, trying to manipulate him, and when Iris says something about she'll always love Barry for eternity, or at least doesn't want to be seen as a damsel in distress for eternity, he realizes that the piece of this Philosopher's Stone is what Savitar needs to escape the Speed Force. But since Caitlin kept a part of the stone, it prevented him. He was still trapped there. But the problem is that Wally is so neurotic and on edge, and just insisting on trying to beat Savitar and not let Barry down or Iris down, that he runs off with the missing fragment of the stone. And he runs around at an old factory, creating a wormhole, Speed Force wormhole, which he throws in the last piece, but he ends up getting sucked in and starts like disintegrating in the same way that Barry did when he got trapped in the Speed Force. And Savitar is free now, and it turns out that because the Speed Force exists outside of space and time, that basically Savitar saw Flashpoint and was creating all the meta-humans from Flashpoint on Earth 1, because he wanted to manipulate, including Wally, because he wanted to manipulate him into getting fast enough to take his place in the Speed Force and allow for his escape. And so they have this fight between Savitar and Barry, which they're more evenly matched, but Savitar still kind of gets the upper hand and stabs Barry with one of his blades, which Barry chops off, and then Savitar runs off. And so everybody's just kind of beside themselves about what happened with Wally and how they're gonna get him back. And Caitlin blaming herself for letting all this happen, and Barry blaming himself for letting his fear of the future, like letting all this come to pass. And it's harder for me at this point to not be like mad anymore, because of the fact that it just seems like the characters don't seem to learn the lesson about not keeping secrets from one another. And I guess my biggest gripe with the fact is that it seemed like Jessie didn't... what's the point of having Jessie around if she doesn't really do anything? I mean, she's playing the same role as Iris at this point, as being the supportive girlfriend. Like, she didn't have like a really active role in this at all, or even try to like stop Wally from doing that. And Barry's just kind of standing there. He's getting sucked into the sucked into the wormhole. You could have at least tried to like pull him out. But anyway, this episode still exceeded my expectation. It was still like a really good episode, and made me wonder, like, this is gonna raise the stakes now. Like I mean, I think Wally's supposed to come back, because I saw like behind the scenes photos of him where I think that the team's they're both supposed to go to Earth 19, and so, but else you're still kind of left wondering, like, now that Savitar is back, like, how much of a threat is he going to be? Is he going to torment him the same way Prometheus is doing with Green Arrow? How's Jesse going to play a role? How paranoid is going to make everybody else, knowing that he got out? So overall, like, a very, very solid episode. I really enjoyed it. Great character drama, and even if it was plotting through stupidity, which I'm sure people are going to complain about, I still thought it was a solid episode regardless. I mean, it exceeded my expectations in the sense that I never thought two of Savitar's prophecies would come true this close before this. Before the season finale, while he's suffering a fate worse than death, and Caitlin acknowledges herself that she's the one that betrayed the team. In Season 2, Episode 13, Land of the Lost, Rip is able to enter in some kind of override code, which kind of sounds like he's putting in. This kind of almost sounds like similar to what Zemo was doing with Winter Soldier in order to trigger his brainwashing, which it kind of reminded me of that. Even though, especially since Gideon was begging Captain Hunter not to put in the override code, even though he did. At first, he causes the ship to self-destruct, which Jax is able to shut down and reboot the ship's system before that happens, but it does force the team to crash land, and in the midst of all the chaos, Rip grabs a gun from his armory and destroys the medallion so to keep the Legends from trying to find the last piece of the spear. And which is apparently with Nate's grandfather, so they crash it in 669 million years in the past. Maybe like, I don't know, a few weeks or at least a few months after, after Ray was stranded in that era, and it was because that was the oldest time period the ship's been to, which is why Gideon forced the ship to crash land there. But a piece of the ship's, a major part of the ship, which allows for time travel, got lost in the crash, and so Amaya, Ray, and Nate have to go and fetch it. And it turns out that they talk about this whole thing about how they're trying to avoid the T-Rex that was chasing him down, but because Ray stole one of the dinosaur's eggs, which he named Gertrude, for sustenance, she knows his scent, and he catches Nate and Amaya about to make out in his old hut, and basically his old hut that he set up back when he was stuck there. And he tells Nate that he can't get close to her, and how she's met and how Ray acknowledges, at least vaguely refers to the events of Vixen Season 2, in which he met and teamed up with the Vixen of present day, Mari McCabe, and how she's supposed to inherit the totem, and how Amaya needs to go back to 1942, go back to Zambezi, and how like her village gets burned down, and Nate insists as like, I won't tell her anything, which of course is going to happen sometime down the road. And when they see Amaya, the T-Rex confronts all three of them. Amaya's able to use the totem to channel the T-Rex and I guess like communicate. I guess like just tame it somehow by she just like starts petting it and just taking on like a reptilian eyelids. And Nate says that although Ray says like, you can at least keep it casual, don't try to get it too attached, which Nate admits that he is, and he's actually falling in love with Amaya in spite of everything he's being told. And so that's going to cause a dynamic because he immediately goes to, takes up her invitation to go hook up with her in her quarters. And meanwhile, from Mick's experience with the Time Masters, he knows that they can do cognitive intrusion, suggesting they use that as a means to find out where Rip's keeping the last piece of the spear and also undo his brainwashing, which the ship has the technology which allows Jax and Sarah to go into Rip's mind, but they end up being confronted by doppelgangers of themselves as well as other members of the Legends they have to fight off. Which is kind of cool. They have we get to see Firestorm in a sense, and how the colors of the flames are kind of inverted. It's black with a little bit tints of blue, with red, which kind of makes me think if there's ever a version of a Jefferson Jax version of Deathstorm, that will be. I'd imagine that's what he would look like. But anyway, she finds in Rip's mind, Sarah, who finds a Rip trapped in the brig, and his own mind has become a construct. It's taken on the form of the ship, and now it's the construct of his own mind. And now he's trapped in the brig by evil versions of the Legends, and basically they determine that through the brainwashing, that's how the evil Rip must see the Legends, and Rip's memories are fading. That's why he's kind of in a corner, scared, and it takes encouragement from Sarah for them to break out of the brig. And of course, Jax ends up encountering Gideon in a physical form, which is actually just Gideon's voice actress, Amy Pemberton, which was kind of cool that they were able to incorporate her actress into the show, or like have like a full on appearance, not just do voiceover work. And while they're battling the doppelgangers, Jackson, Sarah, Rip finally is able to get his get his memories back with encouragement from Gideon, and is able to destroy the doppelgangers. And Jax uses his some kind of electric bracelet that he got before going into Rip's mind to escape, but because Sarah's was destroyed, he has to revive him with those like electric paddles, which wakes her up without causing her to get trapped there. And with Gideon's encouragement and giving him a goodbye kiss, that Rip's able to escape as well and wake up back to his normal self. But what's interesting is that the AI Gideon seemed to know about the kiss and apparently everything that was going on in Rip's mind, which I didn't think made a lot of sense. But the only thing that I could see what happened was that I guess Gideon was inside Rip's mind too when everybody was hooked up. Like, she secretly sent a part of her mind into Rip's to help get him out. I mean, that's the only thing that could headcanon I can come up with that makes sense. But I also thought the whole thing was like kind of bittersweet. You feel like there's this like sense of accomplishment from finally getting Rip back, but it doesn't seem like everybody's ready to accept him back as captain yet, especially since when Martin Stein says, "Good to have you back, Captain. Mr. Hunter." So it seems like next week is going to explore the dynamic of who's going to be calling the shots now that he's back. And I don't know. I never really liked Rip as a character. It was only when he was a villain or as a film student that, which he says he remembers everything, and he apologizes for his actions to the Legends. But I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, it's bittersweet. Never liked him. He was better as a villain, as a film student. Not a great character when he was a good guy. So, and I kind of like Sarah as the captain, basically the female Captain Kirk of the show. And good episode, bittersweet ending. That's all I gotta say. Which do you guys think had the strongest episode this week? Do you like how the episodes played out? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.